Yo, local bands, I know selling 45 pre-sale tickets for your first show seems impossible. And it kind of is. Unless you listen to this podcast. This week I have Sean Healy on the podcast. He created WeBookBands.com. He is also Sean Healy Presents. Sean was a guy that I really wanted to get on the podcast, but I wasn't really sure what to talk to him about or what to ask him. But then I realized, I was in a local band once. I know a lot of local bands. I am friends with a lot of people in local bands, and I get it. It seems strange to have to sell your own tickets, but there's a reason for it. And Sean's going to talk about it in this episode. And for those of you that don't even know how to sell those 45 pre-sales, Sean's going to teach you how to do that. He's going to teach you how to promote your band when you don't have a following. He's going to teach you the importance of making those pre-sales. He's going to tell you guys the secrets of growing in the industry, getting from small band that has 0 followers to playing with artists like Kendrick Lamar and G-Eazy and huge acts like that. If you want to get out of small venues and you want to start playing venues like the Viper Room, the Roxy, the Regent, House of Blues, if you guys want to grow in this industry, listen to this podcast. I'm going to let Sean do the rest of the work, but if you guys are looking for Adobe products, if you are trying to get your editing game on and strong, go down in the description. I have a link for you. Students, you get a 60% discount. Yeah, 60% discount. You guys, how crazy is that? All right, Sean, talk to the people.
Hi, I'm Sean Healy from Sean Healy Presents and WeBookBands.com. Our concert promotions company has been around since 1996, so we're in our 22nd year of promoting concerts. I started out as a local call-in band booking service for local bands in Hollywood. I was operating out of my apartment. I was a former actor who was doing performance art warehouse shows at my theater company. I was producing them, much like open mics. And through that, I met a lot of musicians. And I called a nightclub one day and I said, hey, I got all these crazy acts that I'm doing at my theater. I think they'd be good in your bar. And I happened to meet a really cool bar owner who's like, sure, you can do your show here. And he goes, what are you doing in the meantime? I said, nothing, I'm broke, I'm an actor, I'm doing whatever odd jobs I can. He said, well, I'm looking for someone to be the day manager at the bar and book the bands. Do you want to do it? And I didn't know anything about booking bands. I had just booked my little performance art warehouse show with poets and acoustic guitar players. And so I took the job and I started booking bands and being nice to musicians because I'm not one. I was a struggling artist. He opened more clubs and I started taking more nights at different clubs. And at that time, we're talking 22 years ago, people were still mailing in CDs and cassettes. So I just put my number out there and I said, call me if you need a show. And I had a little phone service and that's how it began.
Wow, that's insane. So you weren't even like a part of the music industry. So how did you, like, what did it feel like to go from the theater world to the music world?
Much the same. The thing with this is how I've sort of always related the two. I've always been a music fan, so I didn't come in blindly. Like I would come out here on spring break. I lived in Arizona. We'd come out here and we would just record K-Rock all day, on cassette tapes and bring them back to Arizona. So I was always in sort of new music, especially like Depeche Mode and The Cure and New Order when that was coming up in the early 80s. I was on top of that, and those were the bands I loved. But I always sort of related the two as, good music, good, unique, great music will always find its way. It will always find, if something's really good and it's music and it's a band or a singer, it's going to get noticed. If you're a really good, unique actor, great actor, you may not get noticed. So that's the difference between the two. There's a lot of great actors that no one's ever heard of that'll never make it. a lot of great bands too that may never make it, but you have a better shot, I think, as a musician if you're great than you do as an actor if you're great.
So for those local bands that are literally, as you would say, nobodies, that don't have a following, that don't have a presence, what would they do? What would be their first steps to getting, booked for these shows? And on sites like WeBookBands.com, you guys have the available gigs that you are looking for bands to fill those slots. So if there are people that aren't, say, in California that don't have access to maybe a website or a booking agent like yourself, where would they start? Well,
that's a really good question. I mean, we offer what we have in the markets that we have, which are Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Portland, Seattle, Sacramento. But yeah, if you're living in Florida, we're not in Florida. So, or if you're living in a small town in Iowa or something, then you don't have access to the venues or markets that we do. The first step is really just finding out what your local establishments are, who books them. You have to do a little schmoozing or whatever, but you find out what the local places are. And, you as long as you have the time to do it, you play every gig that you can locally in those markets. Now, you don't do that in Los Angeles, New York, or the major markets. You don't play every gig that you can because then you're diluting your following. And everyone, when they ask, hey, we want to play your bar, the guy who books the bar is going to say, well, what's your draw like? I know you sound great, but how many people are going to come to see you? And so, you want to make sure that, you're able to promote well and you get your fans to the right shows.
Right. So, what if you don't have a fan base? What if you don't have anything? So, yeah.
If you're just starting and you don't have anything and you just put some videos up on YouTube and people are like, hey, I like your stuff, really just play like the coffee houses, the open mics, play a Monday at a club when they have an off night or a local night. You sort of got to take, the lesser gigs in the beginning to get well known and to earn your chops and to make sure your show is good. So you take all the off gigs that you can, because a guy is going to offer you a bad night if he doesn't know what your draw is. He's going to be like, okay, you can play Monday night at midnight, and nobody wants to play Monday night at midnight. But if that's all there is, then you got to get that experience under your belt.
Yeah. So let's go back to acting and what the entertainment industry. Why did you want to get started in entertainment? You could have literally done anything. You could have been a banker, a lawyer, anything. Why'd you choose entertainment?
Well, for me, it goes all the way back to I had a cousin who was a very famous comedian back in the 70s. His name was Harvey Korman from the Carol Burnett Show. And he was in Blazing Saddles and movies like that. So he was a star back then in the mid to late 70s. And I remember the first time I saw him on TV, I was sitting on his lap in a hotel room watching the TV, and I looked at him and I looked at the TV and I was like, wow, that's really cool. So I must have been 5 years old. So I was enamored with him and I was enamored with acting. And I really just, from that point on, I got into theater heavily, and I did as many plays as I could, and I worked hard, and I trained, and I got a full ride scholarship to Arizona State for theater, and I got a BFA in theater. Came out to LA at 21, and I was like, all right, I'm ready to be on, 90210 and Melrose Place, and so I grinded it out for probably 21 to 28. I was grinding it out.
Hey, that's really good for me to know, because I just came here to California from Australia. So I've been growing up all over the world, and I was like, go to California. That's where everybody else went to make it in film and photo. So I'm glad that I'm not the only one that has that thought.
Yeah, I mean, things happen in different ways. I can't tell you how many people, when I was an actor, how many of the casting directors and the producers came to Los Angeles to do other things and found their way into, these situations where they're decision makers, but they didn't come here for that. So I didn't move to LA to book bands, but it just sort of happened. And that's really the wonderful thing about Los Angeles. And that's why I really do encourage people to move here, because there's a little bit of everything in California. We always have, which is awesome, but yeah, you deal with traffic, you deal with earthquakes, you deal with floods, you deal with stuff like we all do around the world.
Yep.
But as far as opportunities go, there are so many opportunities to find your way and your path in Los Angeles, and it may not even be the path that you came here for, but just the energies might take you down a different creative path, and that's where you end up. And so I knew I had to get out of Arizona, and I knew I had to be here over New York, because it was, as an actor, you're either going to New York or LA. So, I knew LA was for me, and, the first few years I grinded it out, did a few little parts, got, barely was able to eat, and then fell into band booking, and the rest is history.
Wow. So what real jobs did you have to have while you were building your own, your own name, your own brand?
As far as the band stuff goes?
Well, yeah, as far as the band stuff goes. So did you have like a quote unquote real job to like help you as far as like finances go?
Yeah, I sort of did. The last like real job I had, I was a food delivery guy. And there were 3 or 4 of us. We were all actors. And we all worked for this little restaurant in the Valley that during the lunch hours would deliver to casting directors and studios and producers.
Brilliant.
So it was a way for us to schmooze these people. And I would put my postcards in their lunch bags and my headshots, and I would network while I was delivering their lunch. At that time was also when I was doing the theater thing and the open mic thing. So that was sort of my real last job. I was still delivering food for, a year, booking bands. And then one night I made my rent money in one night and on the band. And I was like, I gotta switch gears. And so I went that route.
That's crazy. It's amazing how putting yourself in a position to become something or put yourself in a place somewhere, it really pays off. And I do the same thing, like I'll give business cards everywhere I go, just because you don't know who you're going to run into. And a lot of people will look at what you did and say like, wow, that's kind of like messed up. He used his position, but no, you were smart about it. And like at the end of the day, like you're trying to build yourself. Like that's what you have to do.
Have to do it. And now I'm on the other end of it, and people are always, hey, can you get this for me? Can I get on this show? Can I do this? And it's a full-on business now, so I can't be as like free as I used to be. I used to be like, yeah, man, just show up, play, I'll hook it up, but now we have tremendous overhead and we have a full staff and things. But I always believe in the artist opportunity, which is big, because I know I wanted someone to give me an opportunity when I was an artist. And I do know, even when I was an actor, it's a business. It's not a free for all. So you have to work at it, and you have to understand, like when I'm telling you about this theater and this warehouse, we would have to pay $40 a month to be a member of the theater and the warehouse. So you had to pay just to be a part of the theater group. And at first you're like, oh, I'm an actor, I'm not paying $40 to audition to be in a play and to rehearse and all that. But eventually you sort of have to do that, and you earn your dues and you do it. So you have to, as an artist, you have to invest in yourself. And a lot of times that means financially, other than aesthetically, other than taking classes, other than going to rehearsal, other than rehearsal studio. You have to invest in showcases. You have to invest in seminars. You have to invest in EPKs. You have to invest in your business. Your art is your business. It's nobody else's. And when you make it big, then it's other people's businesses. But until you make it big, you got to make the art. It's your own business. You started a business.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people, when they're starting out a business or a project, they don't go into it with that mindset. They don't go into it with like the long term. They're just like, I want to make it, but they don't realize like the steps it takes. So explain to me like the steps it took for you to get from booking that first show and making your rent that one night, and then going from there, transitioning those steps to get to where you are now.
I got lucky because, I'll take you all the way back to band booking 101. So when you're in a club, working in a club, and the owner of the club or the GM or whoever says, okay, I want you to book this night, listen to these, tapes. In the old days, it was tapes and CDs. So you'd have a big box of them and you'd listen to everyone's music. And then you would like book a night, like, okay, this band's going to be great at 8:00. This band's going to be at 9. My headliner's at 11. Then I'm going to close it out. And you would basically book by ear. Wow. And the problem with booking by ear in Los Angeles is there's so many other things to do. So Los Angeles has had its time as a very I'm talking about the 80s and the Sunset Strip and Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue. There was a time when LA was it and the Sunset Strip was it. Times changed. The internet killed the record labels. So there's not record guys out going to see you anymore. So the industry changed quite a bit. As far as like me knowing, when I was making the full switch, like I said, I had one night. My first couple shows were not good. I booked by ear. Like I said, I listened to this band. I booked them at 8. I listened to this band, put them at 10. I didn't tell them to bring people. So the sound guy was like, hey, did you tell these bands to promote? Because there's nobody in the club. And I'm like, what do you mean tell them to promote? He's like, dude, if you don't tell the bands to promote, they're not going to bring anybody. And I'm like, really? Because I was, as an actor, I was the guy always bringing people to my play. So yeah. I was naturally like, come see me at the play. I'll take you out for a drink after, or we're going to party after. So he's like, if you don't tell the bands to promote, they're not going to promote. So then I switched gears and I was like, okay. So I told these bands, hey, you got to bring 20 people. If you bring 20 people, we'll split the door, whatever it was. And, then you start saying, hey, don't book this if you can't bring anybody. And so that's sort of, when the business aspect started to kick in. And then at that time we were doing venues that weren't even on the Sunset Strip. So there was overhead, but it wasn't like renting out the Roxy or the Key Club at the time, or the Troubadour or the El Rey, which are prominent venues here. And they're several thousands of dollars to rent out. So you have to have, have your bases covered.
Yeah, and I think that's something that the bands themselves don't understand. I think that's a huge thing that needs to be talked about, and that would be great to have your insight on it, because a lot of bands think that what you do, not you specifically, but your industry is very sharky. It's very shark-like, and bands feel like young artists that are new can tend to get taken advantage of because they don't know what they're getting into. They don't know where to start. And so that's why this podcast is so important to me, because I have friends that are in bands. I'm in a band, these are the kind of things that if you don't know and nobody tells you, you're going to get screwed.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's where, I like to feel like even though the business has changed so much, because we used to just be local band booking service. Like I told you, call our number. We've got nights everywhere. You can play there, here, there. And that's all it was. But then we started paying big national touring acts. And then when you're rolling the dice on that stuff and you're renting bigger venues, and it becomes really risky. And that's sort of where the business shift changed, at least on my end. But yes, if you don't take a class, read a book, listen to this podcast. I speak whenever I can at Musicians Institute or UCLA or USC, because, the artists need to hear it from somebody who was an artist, who's on the other side in the industry. Because when I was an actor at ASU, nobody told us the business of acting. I graduated that college in 4 years, and we had one workshop for an hour where they told us how to survive in LA and New York. There was no real time, this is how it really is. This is what to expect as an actor when you get out there. We had no business training for our art. And unfortunately, that happens these days. Now, with the internet and stuff like that, it's a little easier. You can sort of research anything you want now at your fingertips, and you can listen to podcasts and watch YouTube, and experts will tell you, things. But back then they didn't.
Back then they didn't, because they didn't want to give their secrets away.
Well, it was a different deal. I mean,
yeah, too.
We honestly, like, the bands used to do showcases like at 8:00 at the Viper Room on a Friday night. That was a key slot, because the industry, the agents, the A&R people, would go to an early showcase to see you, especially at Viper Room, which has always been a sexy rock club. They would go there at 8:00. they're not an industry person back then does not want to see you at 11 o'clock or 11:30. They don't want to. They want to see you early so they can go on to their next thing. So in the old days, the bands would give us a big guest list. There'd be, all the agents, all the managers, everyone. So it was really impressive, and bands were getting signed.
Wow, yeah, it is really cool to see how far you really can get if you take the right steps and you do educate yourself in the industry. Did you have any mentors, or did you like follow under somebody? Like, how did you figure all this stuff out? Was it just by trial and error, failing?
Yeah. I mean, I really, for the most part, I had to figure it out. I was always, even as an actor and as a kid, I was always sort of business savvy. So even though business wasn't my thing, I still knew how to, make a buck. I had a paper route and I paid another kid to do it, so I still made a couple bucks. So I always sort of knew how to, hustle a little bit. I really just sort of transformed my energies and my brain into, making sure that if I was going to do this, I was able to pay my rent. And then it became, like I said, a business and a big business and an opportunity business. And it makes me happy that we can offer local bands a chance to open up for big acts, because there's not a lot of companies that do that around the country, and especially not anymore. It's a business where you do hear of things of, people are shady, people are snarky, people are whatever. It's absolutely out there. I like to think we're pretty basic. We're like, here's the deal. I mean, you may not like the deal, but here's the deal. So we're not hiding anything from you. Don't do it if you don't want to do it. But here it is in black and white of what we're expecting. And we have no problem with that. I've never had an issue with it.
Yeah. And so... I think that's great. And to have you explain that, I think will help a lot of people really understand that you're not just trying to take these bands' money. Like, there's reasons you need, it's basically like you need to secure yourself. Like, it's your name that you're protecting, essentially.
Well, it's that, and back in the day, yeah, it was, because I couldn't get a Saturday night. I had to do a Tuesday night and show them that, hey, I got these bands, or pack it. If you give me a Saturday, it'll be double. But yeah, mostly for us now, it really is the financials. Some of these shows, we have shows that are, the risk is all the way up to $100,000. It's true. So, we'll buy. I'm giving you an example right now. We have Wyclef John on the road right now, and we bought 5 shows, and you can imagine how much that cost, how much he costs, and then on top of renting the theater, paying for the promo, doing the radio, doing the, so it is financial, and we have to protect that. Now, where we can, we like to do favors. So if we have a big sold out show and there's a band we've been working with that's really been busting their butt and doing tickets and hustling, and we see it and they're good, we'll totally throw a bone, get that band on a headline show and let them just play to a sold out crowd. Additionally, we'll refer bands to agencies and booking agents, managers, and record labels. I've done that as well.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. And I've heard that, like, working with you, people have been able to get great opportunities from that. And for bands that are, let's say Southern California specifically, what sets you apart from other bookers like Kelly McGarry with like booking shows or breakthrough shows, and you have like Angela Frost as well. So there are different places you could go. Like, you could go with you in LA and you have to do, maybe like 45 pre-sales, or you could go 50 miles down to Huntington Beach and get paid to play somewhere with another booking agency. So what are the perks, like, going with specific bookers?
Well, these days, and I give props to everyone else who's doing it as well. They're sort of doing what we did in the beginning, so it's there's nothing wrong with that. That's where I came from. That's how I got here. So if one of those promoters you mentioned has an opportunity for a band to play a specific venue and it makes sense for the band, by all means, they should do it. 90% of what we do with unsigned bands these days are offering them chances to open up for a headliner. I don't know if those other companies are doing that. I don't really watch that because we're not. Our competition is Live Nation and AEG Golden Voice. Okay, so those are massive companies that we're this little company. Even though we do 250 shows a year, we have to battle against them for tour dates. So I'm not really watching what those other promoters are doing, what their Saturday night is, where it's at, or their Friday night. So in contrast, what we are still offering the local bands is a chance to open up for a known act, as opposed to just playing a local night.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, tell me some of the other like features, benefits, and advantages from bands going through webookbands.com or through Sean Healy Presents. It's just everything.
Yeah. I mean, if you book with us, you're going to get the opportunity to open for a national act. You're going to get, a lot of promotion that's already built into our vehicle. So when your name is on that, you're out there promoting yourself. Hey, I'm opening up for so-and-so. Let's say Wyclef. I'm opening up for Wyclef. So you're reaching your people. Hey, you're telling your friends and neighbors and kids at school and your work people and your boyfriend, your girlfriend. So you're promoting that. Same time, we're promoting you too, because we have your name on our Wyclef stuff. And our stuff, we're promoting the heck out of that show, and the venue's promoting the heck out of that show. So it's a 3-for-1 when you book with us, because you're getting 3 levels of promotion. Now, we're not saying we know who your friends are, come see the so-and-sos, but your name, your brand is on all of our stuff, and it's being pushed out.
Yeah, that should be enough for people to realize that, that's a great opportunity. For bands that have never heard of like doing pay-to-play shows or pre-sales, and they do get like that concept that like you do have to prove that you can pay, or prove that you can draw that crowd. But for them, what is another advantage of doing pre-sales aside from, bringing their own friends? Basically explain to them how important it is to, do pre-sales not only for their band, but for the other bands.
I mean, I think I can't speak for other promoters because we're just not in the trenches like that anymore. Sure. But the advantages are, look, if you don't sell your tickets, you then paid to play. And that's just not right. That doesn't sit right with me, doesn't sit right with anyone. We're not asking you for your money.
Right.
We are asking you to go sell your ticket to your neighbor or your coworker or your mom, because we don't have information.
Yeah, we don't know. You don't know who they are.
Can't get a ticket to your mom. I can't. I don't know who she is or where to get her. So, we're encouraging you to be proud of your brand and to go do that legwork. Now, the benefits of that are, first and foremost, you're going to have your support team at your show. So you're going to have people clapping for your band. Yes, they're people but the other people that'll be there, when they see other people clapping, you feed off of it. So all of a sudden, hey, maybe you picked up a few more fans from the last band, or maybe there's some walk-ins in there, So that's the benefit of actually getting your tickets out there, getting those people to the show, and then getting whatever else the other people are there as well. It's a natural reaction. So in LA, people go see their friend's band and the band's done, and people in LA tend to head for the door. They just leave. That's how it is. It's not like that in Chicago or San Francisco. People stay for all the bands. But in LA, there's a lot going on, and so you'll invite your friend to come see your band. Your friend's going to come see your band, but when you're done, he's going to be looking at his watch like, okay, what's next? Now, if the next band after you does their job and has their people coming through, also the club's packing out a little bit and you're still hanging out and you're not ready to go because you see all these other people, and then this other band comes on and all of a sudden you're like, wow, that's a cool band too, and you're sticking around. Only works if all the bands do their part. If the next band straight paid to play and has nobody come through the door, well, then that first band who worked really hard, other people are going to bail. And then you have an angry bartender. You have a band who didn't push their tickets and just paid the money, and they're playing in front of nobody. Yeah. So it really can work if everyone does their job, in the beginning.
Sure. I do want to, let's do, since we're just talking about some crazy things today, I want to touch on, so when a band goes to book like a tour, right? How do they compete with other bands that say have the financial funding to, maybe, like self-fund a tour or pay to jump on a tour? You know what I mean? Like how do other bands compete with that?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question. I mean, the bottom line is, and maybe I don't know if your listeners know this, but there's a lot of bands that do buy onto tours that goes on. When you see these, big Warped Tours and stuff like that, you have bands that they're either not getting paid anything and they have to provide their own bus and their whole thing, or they're literally giving money to the tour to play at 3:00 in the afternoon or to play out in front of the stadium. So there's a lot of that goes on in the business as well. And there's also corporate sponsorship. Sometimes there's like a clothing company that'll pay for your van, or there's a weed company that'll, do this, that, and the other. So, those opportunities still exist. And yeah, if you're lucky enough to get something like that, by all means, you should go for it. And hey, there's nothing wrong with buying onto a tour. It's like buying onto a show. There's nothing wrong with that. Whatever is good for the band and whatever makes sense for the brand, that's what you got to go with.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's super, super important for people to know as well. So let's do a battle of the bands kind of things. Like a lot of those things are, popularity contests or social media following, that kind of stuff. Again, like what's a good way to compete with that aside from playing the actual battle of the band shows at the finals?
I mean, I think really this day and age with YouTube and social media, it all goes back to what I said at the beginning of this. If you're good, I mean good. I mean you're unique. You don't sound like 10 other bands or all the bands on the radio. Or if you're a rapper, you don't sound like Migos. You don't sound like every other guy that's on the radio. If you're unique in what you're doing, it's gonna find its lane. Your people, you can just put it on YouTube. If you're amazing, all of a sudden you're going to have clicks and links and likes and blah, 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 and people will find out. So, that's really the way I look at it is like, no one who's a great band or a good musician is never going to get held back by fans. Because we all love music, we all crave it, we all want to hear it, we listen to it all day while we're driving at work, in the shower, whatever. So if it's good and unique, it's going to find its place, and you'll find fans. Yeah,
definitely. So what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
That's a great question. We've been through one. Yeah, we've been through so many. We've been through so many battles because we literally we've done thousands of shows, which is just crazy because I still feel like I did, 20 years ago. But I think me personally, we're at a point now where we've worked with pretty much every aspect of the business. We've worked with record labels, managers, agents, road managers, tour managers, publicists, lawyers, blah, 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 blah. I'm at the point now where if I find something that's really good and unique, as opposed to just referring it, we're taking an interest in it. And we are potentially about to manage one or two people towards the second half of this year. So we're going to utilize all those contacts we've made over the years and try to, further someone's career.
Because it's also your investment.
It is, and I've also seen it get away. So I've seen, I don't know if you know our history with like hip hop and stuff, but we were the first to do Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Big Sean, Future in Los Angeles. So, we did all those guys first before they were as they were on the come up. And so that goes a long way. They all blew up, which is awesome. But we want to find the next one because we've met all these people over the years and we want to sort of cultivate this person's career and help out. So that we're not going to let someone get away who we see as being great anymore because we did that.
Wow. For bands that might want to reach out to yourself, where would they find you, and where can they submit their music? Like, what is your sorting process now?
So we have a team of people here, 4 or 5 people other than myself. And the best way really is to go to webookbands.com. There's a info one sheet that you fill out on there about your band. We get all the emails, all the submissions, and then we'll contact you. And then we'll build a relationship via email or phone, and you'll tell us where you're from, what you're looking for, what you want to do, and we'll see what fits. Inevitably, it turns into phone conversations, and then inevitably, if something makes sense, we'll book you on a show. We'll issue you a contract. A lot of times, these are people's first contracts they've ever seen. It's pretty black and white, and you read it and you sign it and send it back. We get you your tickets if you're doing tickets on a show, and there's a deposit, and then the rest is history. What you don't do is you don't come in my office and you don't have to buy 50 tickets and then you go out and hit the pavement. We set it up. It's really been user friendly for many years. So we do make you put a small deposit down. It's usually 20% of whatever you're doing, and then we release everything to you, and then you turn in the rest of the money, prior to the show, if you're pre-selling.
Yeah, sure. So other than that, how many submissions do you guys get regularly? Say, give me in a week, how many submissions could you receive?
I mean, I think around 100. They don't go to me. They go to info, We Book Bands, and then the bookers sort of go through it. Probably at least 100, but it's probably more. If you're a new listener and you're in a band or you're an artist, I would encourage you to sign up at webookbands.com. It's just, there's no money. It's just simple. You just fill out the one sheet, and then we do send out an email every Monday. That's the available gigs email, and it's everything we're looking for in all the markets. And then, if you see something you like, you call us up and you're like, hey, what's up with that Wyclef show?
That's what the email has to say, by the way. Yo, what's up with that Wyclef show?
Well, that's what happens. So a lot of times people will just call and they'll be like, hey, what do you got? I booked a show with you in 2010. What shows do you have? And we're like, hey, man, check out the website. We always update it. It's right there. You can see where we are, what we're doing, and where we're looking for support. And then our Twitter and our Facebook and Instagram at We Book Bands. It's the best way to find out. If you're a local band, it's the best way to find out what's going on. Right? If you're an unsigned band, I should say, it's the best way to find out what opportunities we have are out there for you to get on.
Got you. So what's the differentiation between We Book Bands and Sean Healy Presents?
So that's a great question. So We Book Bands is the unsigned arm of the company. Meaning, if you're unsigned and you want to get on a big show, that's the site you go to. Sean Healy Presents /SHP Tickets. SHP Tickets is where we send the public to go buy tickets for the shows. But Sean Healy Presents is more of the title for the national shows, the big concerts, and that's more of the talent buying aspect of things that we do here, and sending offers and things of that nature, and billing mostly, on the title of the show.
Okay. For people that might want to get involved in the booking side or the business side of music, where would you recommend that they start? Other than YouTube and podcasts, like physically, venues and bands and that.
So I'm a big advocate of interning. And we have interns here every day. We've had them for years. If you have the time in your day where you can intern for, 2 to 4 hours a week or 10 hours a week, whatever you can do, you learn so much by doing that. And we've had so many interns go on to either work for us or work for other companies. So, you sort of got to start out on ground level, but you'll learn a lot.
That's awesome.
And, I would definitely recommend an internship.
Sure.
If you want to learn the business side of things, even if you're in a band. We have 2 interns right now that are musicians, and they just wanted to learn the other end of it. So they come in here once or twice a week, and they learn a lot because we're a small company. So they hear the conversations and see the meetings, and they get on-hand knowledge.
And they put their postcards and headshots in the lunches.
Yeah, well, I would do that.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what you would have done. That's what I would have done. It's just basically people need to understand that they need to do this next step that makes sense. Whether you're afraid of it or not, just take it.
And let me just tell you this, and for your listeners, for those of you who are in bands that play local, play live shows, wherever you play, whether it's a big club or the local bar down the street, number one advice whenever I'm asked, tip the sound guy. Give that sound guy $10 or $20. He will make you sound like a rock star. If you don't, that guy's already seen 25 bands that week. So you're going to have a miserable time. So invest the $10 or $20 into the sound man's hands. It's the best money you'll ever spend.
That's absolutely so true. So true. And I've heard that from, bands that are like really killing it. Like they've figured that out. Like it's so simple and people don't think about it. Like if you want to sound good, it's not just you. It's literally, there's so much more to a show than that.
$10 goes a long way. Let me just tell you. So that's that, and be nice to the promoters, be nice to the venue. You want to have a good positive experience so they have you back. But, in order to just make your situation sound good and have a good experience on stage, as soon as you get there, meet the sound guy, say, hey, man, take care of us tonight, man. Please, my friend's out there, my mom's out there. It goes a long way. Oh,
yeah. And they totally get it, like they know that it's a struggle. So if they can do something to help you out as well and they benefit from it as well, then, yeah, they're not going to say no.
Yeah, because you got to remember, normally these guys are mixing 3 or 4 bands a night times 5 to 7 nights a week. So you could be band 25 that they've seen that week already, and they're just done. It's just plug and play. We don't care, blah, blah, blah. So tip the sound guy.
Tip the sound guy, you guys. So what's next for Sean Healy Presents and We Book Bands? What are your next steps, your goals?
Well, we're like I mentioned earlier, we're potentially going to manage 1 or 2 acts, which will be cool. It'll be new, but it'll be cool. We're always sort of looking to expand, so we're always looking for new venues and potential cities. We have a lot going on the West Coast, but in the Midwest, we just have Chicago, which is where I'm from originally. So we're looking to potentially add another Midwest city or 2 there so that they can drive the shows. The artists can drive 3 markets.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of it becomes geography and can you drive the tour? Can you get from, Sacramento to Portland in a day? Stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
You learn your geography. Yeah.
Surprisingly, right? The things we hated to learn in school, now we have to know. All right. So any final advice for anybody out there listening that might still be a little bit apprehensive?
I would just say, keep grinding, be professional. I can't tell you how far that goes with everyone you meet. Like we just talked about with the sound guy or the promoter or the bartender, just be pro. It just goes a long way. And then, just hang in there. Like I said, great music will find its way. And just whatever makes sense for the band. Some shows are going to make sense for you. Some of them are going to not make sense for you. Some of them are going to be like, well, I can make $50 playing at this Irish bar here, or I could sell $1,000 worth of tickets to open for this band at the Troubadour. So you have to weigh the options. Sometimes that $50 thing is good. That's cool. Sometimes taking that risk and opening for a band at the Troubadour or the El Rey or the Viper Room or whatever, sometimes you need that on your resume. And I would say this, even though, the ticket thing can sound scary and why is it like this and why, and I think I laid it out pretty much for you guys on this, but just remember one thing. If you open for a headlining band, that's on your resume for life. That never goes away. So you can, you be able to tell your grandkids, I opened for Kendrick Lamar at the Key Club in 2013. And let me tell you, there were bands that opened for Kendrick Lamar on those nights. So, we had the Strokes. We had bands open for the Strokes. We had bands open for Plain White Tees. I mean, we did a ton of it. So, if you have to commit to a pre-sale or consignment and it's to open for a headliner, just remember that gig never goes away. You can talk about it for the rest of your life, put it in your EPK, put it on your resume, and it looks good. It makes the band look good.
Yep. Awesome. And for people that want to get in touch with you, maybe pick your brain a little bit more or get more info about We Book Bands and Sean Healy, where can they go?
Yeah, webookbands.com. And just fill out the thing there and watch us on our socials. Everything's at webookbands.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks for having me, and take care.
I hope you guys understand now why it's important to do pre-sales, why it's important to work your way up the ranks, work your way up to the headlining shows. I hope you guys understand what it takes to become a tour-worthy act, to become an act that is worth booking, an act that is worth the following, the act that is worth the money that's invested. I hope you guys learned something from this episode. I really do. I learned a ton. I didn't know shit about booking bands. So thank you, Sean, for teaching me something. Like I said, guys, this podcast isn't just for me. It's for you guys. But I have the benefit of getting to learn and ask the questions firsthand. And if you have questions, I want you to ask me. Hit me up on Instagram at @KAnagonio Photography or on Twitter at @KAnagonio. Drop your questions over there and I'll get them addressed on this podcast. Let me know who you guys would want to be on this podcast. Share it. #Project Freelance. Rate it. Leave a comment down below. And you guys, if you want to figure out the inside scoop of whatever industry it is you are in, get an internship. Get an internship. Just use your brain. Use your brain. Do what Sean did. Do something similar. He was an actor. He put his headshot and his resume in every lunch that he delivered when he first got to Hollywood. You can do that shit too with your business cards. I sell things online, right? And whenever I mail it to somebody, even if they're not somebody that follows my stuff, I'll put like my business cards in there so people know what's up. So, like I said, thank you guys. Thank you, Sean. I'll talk to you guys next week on the podcast. Stay tuned. Stay locked. If you guys want to check out my documentary, go to respectthecrew.com. Talk to you guys later.